Isaiah, it says that there's a voice of one calling out in the wilderness, prepare a place for the Lord. And then in the New Testament, in John, in other places as well, but in John 1:23, it says, I am the voice of one calling in the wilderness, make a place for the Lord. So, I don't know if you've ever had this experience in your life, whether it's thinking about the world at large and the state it's in now, or whether it's thinking about somebody in your life that you deal with. And do you ever feel like you're talking to a wall? And it's like, what is so hard to get about this? And you're trying to say something to them that means something to you, and there's just kind of this non-connect. I don't know, they get it. I don't know what you're talking about. Or they're not interested in it. So, the idea of preparing a place is a theme we don't talk about very much, but I want to share that a little bit today and some things that are meaningful to me about that. So, first of all, in terms of preparing a place, before you got here today, there were other people here preparing the place. Do you know what they did? Do you have any idea what they did? They turned on the lights. They made sure the temperature was comfortable. If there were things that needed to be cleaned up, they cleaned up. They put chairs, so you have this nice, comfy place to sit that's not too crowded and not too far apart. So they did all that. They got this stuff working, so that you can listen to me and Lance and whoever else is up here. They got the piano mic all set up. They got the video set up. So there was a lot of preparation before you ever got here for what was able to happen today. And in our life, whether we know it or not, God has laid a lot of preparation of what's to come that we don't even know went into all that. So I'll give you another example. Most of you know, all of you now saw Ruth. A lot of you know Ruth and Michael. And some of you know Ruth and Michael and I teach together sometimes. Michael and I have, and I'm not much of a musician these days, but I made my living as a musician for a long time when I was in college, which was a long time ago. and so for years, I mean decades, I played music in this city, and so has Michael. And we never once met. In 40 or 50 years. Never once met that I know of, that I remember. And once we met, and we had this connection, and now all these wonderful things are happening in my life because of Michael, and I like to think some of that goes the other way. And we have some things we do together to serve people. My point is, I didn't plan on meeting him, and I wasn't looking for him, or vice versa. But a lot of wonderful stuff has unfolded. And why didn't we meet 40 years ago? You know what we've discovered since then? We play with the same people, in the same bands, in the same venues, but not at the same time. Yeah. And my point is, I think to myself, gee, wouldn't it have been great if I had met him back then? Well, yeah, it would have, but you know what? It wouldn't have been what it is now because he wasn't where he is now, and neither was I. Now something can happen that wouldn't have happened then. Follow me? That wasn't our plan. But it was somebody's plan. And there was a lot of preparation that went into making us avoid each other for 40 years in the same little city playing music. And then a lot of preparation that made us connect in this same little city. And how that happened. So, there are times in your life, I'm willing to bet, that things happen to you that you don't like, or that happen to you that you don't understand. Why is this going on? Why is this happening? Why do I have to go through this? And usually, if you're like me, when you're in those states, you don't get an answer when you're in those states. Have you noticed that? Why is this happening to me? And the response is, it reminds me of a joke a friend of mine told me one time of this poor guy. And he drove home from work after being fired unexpectedly, was really depressed, drove home to find his house had burned down, was really depressed, and then discovered from his neighbor that his wife had left him and run off with somebody else. So he was really depressed, and he was calling out to God, why me? Why is all this happening to me? And the clouds parted and a light came down from heaven and a voice said, I don't know, just something about you kind of annoys me. So we don't always know why things are going on. But on a serious note, in those moments when things are happening that you don't understand, there's a plan. There's something being prepared that hasn't yet been revealed to you. And sometimes, don't you recall, in those moments, once you've gotten through them and to the other side of them down the road a ways, you now see, oh, this set up this to make that possible. I couldn't have done that before. So there's a lot going on that we don't see. That's what God prepares for us. Now there's another part, and that's our preparation. How do we prepare to receive God in our life? I talked to you about what the church did already. I'll give you a personal example also. It doesn't sound very spiritual. It sounds pretty mundane, but we had several friends of ours over about a week ago. And we planned to have them over, and they planned to show up. And do you know what we did before they got there? We set out chairs. We cleaned up stuff. We set out some refreshments. We made some teas and coffees. We tried to make the place welcoming. Yeah? So we tried to do that because we knew we had a friend that was important to us, actually multiple ones, that were coming over. So we tried to prepare things so that they would feel comfortable there, they'd feel welcome there, and there'd be a space for them there. So are you doing that in your life with God? Are you making it a comfortable place for God's presence to come into your life? Is there a space for God's presence to come into your life? Or do you fill it up with so much of your own stuff that there's really no room left? You know, we used to make jokes about people praying for God and asking God questions. Often when people teach meditation, even here in this church, they talk about the difference between prayer and meditation in a very simplistic way, being prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God. And we say things like, we pray to God for things all the time, and then we want to get an answer. And it's kind of like, Ani, what did you think of the music this morning? Wasn't that great? Isn't Ruth amazing? She's pretty awesome, right? Did you really like that too? Because I really thought it was great. Did you notice her response to it? It was great, right? What did you think? I mean, really, I'd like to know what you thought of the music. It was really good, wasn't it? Did you notice that she popped up the piano more so that the sound came out more before she started? Did you see all that? Now, do I know what she thought of the music yet? Nope. Do you know how often we do that to God? We just keep talking at it. And we never pay attention. And then we go, I'm not getting any answers. How could you? You need to be quiet. So, and pretty soon I'll be quiet. So you only have to listen to me a little bit longer. So, so we prepare things. Now, here's another interesting thing to me. It's often talked about preparing a way for the Lord, so I'm going to talk more about that. But it also says in the beginning, a voice crying out in the wilderness. Now, at this time, there was a temple, a permanent temple in Jerusalem, which was the heart of their religion, where they believed the presence of God really dwelt in the Holy of Holies in that temple. Actually, physically, literally was there, and that's where he literally spoke to the nation of Israel, was from that temple. The holiest of places that they had. But the preparing for God and the people talking about getting ready for God never mentioned the temple. They mentioned the wilderness. Why is that? Because it's easy to come into a temple like here. Oh, it's all prepared. We have all this nice music. We have all these nice comfortable places. We have everybody being on their best behavior so that we all think we're good to each other and we want us to see the best in each other, and we have these inspirational talks, and everything's great. Then you go out into the real world. It's messy and cluttered, and chaotic, and mean sometimes, and confused. And it's not all beautiful and temple-like. And sometimes our experiences in that world make us want to run back to places like this. I can't wait till there's another thing of unity. Maybe I'll go to a class. I'll go to Bob's Meditation Wednesday because it's a sanctuary. It's a wonderful place in the midst of a place that's not always wonderful. But part of the teaching is, if you really want to prepare a place to experience God in your life, you have to also prepare it in the wilderness of all the things in your life that are unknown. Did anybody hear Reverend Mary's talk last week? In all those unknown places, all the I can't figure out why this is happening places, I don't know what to do places, all those places are where you have to invite God in also. Not just here, not just at the places that you think of as being spiritual or holy, but in all those places. And there's another teaching in regard to that. I don't know if I can put this in a way that makes sense, but even though we build these wonderful structures like this church, and thank God we have them, or the temple in Jerusalem that they had, or all these other wonderful holy places that we build, God doesn't come into places. God comes into souls. And the things that make places holy are the souls that dwell in them, or that attend them, or that are present in them. Or the things that make places unholy are the souls that dwell in them and what they do in them. Not the place. So when we're trying to prepare a place for God, the place we're talking about is where God really lives, and it's not in a building. You know where it says in the Bible over and over and over again that God dwells, and where the Word of the God dwells? Yep, everybody's pointing. Heart, right here. So guess where we need to prepare? Right here. Right here. There's really a lot that we can do to prepare a place if we understand that. And the first thing we need to understand is that the active presence of God, God's presence is everywhere. There's no place it's not. But the active engagement with that presence is only present and available when you invite it. God's Spirit never imposes, ever. So it's by invitation. And our invitation to participate in the love of God, in the kingdom of God, in the joy of God, that's by invitation too. Come on in. Like when people got to our house last week. Hey, come on in. You know, actually, we didn't have to say that to them because they've been there enough. They just open the door and come in. It's like, come on in. They just do. So is our heart like that? Is our heart a place that has an open door to God, where that's welcome all the time? Now, it sounds like we should say, yes, it's a welcome all the time. But if we're honest, aren't there parts of you that you're not sure you want to trust to God yet? Aren't there parts of your life that you think, I better control this, because if I don't, it's not going to happen the right way? Every time you try to take control over something in your life, what you're really saying is, I don't trust God in this part. I'm not talking about doing your part. I'm talking about trying to control the whole thing so it comes out the way you want. The idea of preparing the heart is that there needs to first of all be an opening. So all those walls we build in ourselves to prevent the pain that we've experienced in life, somebody saying something mean to us, somebody hurting our feelings, somebody not seeing us, somebody not appreciating us, somebody not caring about us trying something that really matters to us and failing. All those pains that we experience in life. What generally happens with those is we start to build internal barriers, saying, I don't want to experience this pain again. And so we build a wall thinking, I'll keep the pain out. You do build the wall, and it does keep the pain out for a little bit of time. And you say, see, that worked. That's great. Never going to trust anybody again because the last person I trusted really, really betrayed me. Not trusting again, too painful. So you build the wall saying, nope, not doing that. And it works temporarily. And then what you discover as you go down the road farther is that wall keeps everything out. The joy you want, the vitality you want, the enthusiasm you want, the wisdom you want, the presence of God that you want to connect to. It keeps it all out. And you're just locked in this little dark room by yourself going, why am I so lonely? Why is life so hard? Why am I afraid of everything? Because of these walls. The same openness and vulnerability that allows you to be hurt, allows you to be healed, allows you to experience the joy of being in love with not just a person, but life, with God. And so part of this is a preparation for how we open our hearts to God and how we do that. And this spirit that Wanda sometimes calls the abiding spirit, I love that phrase, the abiding spirit, that spirit, which is everywhere, including in us, is prominent in our hearts. And we have sometimes this pattern of welcoming that spirit, trying to connect to that spirit, trying to live in that spirit, in places that we consider to be spiritual or holy. We definitely try to do that here. Some of us try to do that at work. Some of us find it easy to do at work, and some of us find it quite hard to do at work. Some of us, thank you. There's a pay attention. Okay, right. I was doing a meditation with a group the other day, and in the meditation I was talking about a similar thing, opening up. And just as we finished my guided part of the meditation went into silence in the house we were in, somebody literally came in the door. The door literally opened up, which was really funny to me. So, but this spirit that we're trying to connect with, and we're trying to live within that spirit, we have to be willing to take that to all the hard places in our life. We have to be willing to open to it in the hard places of our life. And those are the places that we really need to open to it. And I mean, when we're really afraid of, there's something out there that's either coming toward me or I'm going toward it, and you know, I can't avoid this. This is coming. And it's either coming at you or you're going toward it or both, but you recognize that there's something here that's about to happen and I am scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Back to Reverend Mary's, I don't know. I don't know. And I want to know. Because if I know, then I can possibly understand it. And if I can understand it, I might be able to control it. And then I'm going to feel more comfortable. But there's an awful lot we don't know. And an awful lot that we don't know what's going to come forward. In those scary places, when we're about to encounter this fear thing, what we want to do emotionally is run away from that. Don't you? You'd like to avoid that. And so, instead of running away from it, when I'm talking about bringing the spirit of this God into that and opening our hearts to that, then instead we move toward it in the spirit of love and peace and faith. We move toward it. And what we encounter is something that we're afraid of. We think that by running away from what we're afraid of, we can avoid it. Do you know what it says in the book of Job? The very thing that I feared has now come upon me. Because when you run from fear, it's like a magnet, and you're now saying, chase me. Like a dog. If you want a dog to run away from you, run at it. If you want a dog to come back to you, run away from it, and it'll follow you. It'll come right after you. Oh boy, we're playing chase. Comes right after you. So does fear. Every fear you run away from comes right after you. And it will catch you, because you can't outrun it. And what's better is to be able to confront whatever's difficult in your life in this spirit that we're talking about, preparing a place for the Lord. That fear, isn't that a place you wish the Lord were? Isn't that a place you wish you can encounter God? And I had an experience a while back, about a year ago, when I had a heart attack. I was in a cardiac rehab program at the hospital. By the way, this is just me, totally me. This is not a spiritual thing. This is just Stephen. I don't like hospitals. Don't like needles, don't like things being shoved into me, poked in me, pulled from me, don't like it. Not a fan of hospitals. Now I'm in the hospital, dying, or maybe dying. And anyway, I get through that, and I have to go to this cardiac rehab program. So now I'm going into this strange place, which is basically a gym, where they monitor you for blood pressure and heart rate and all these different things. And there are a team of nurses and monitors everywhere, and they're watching you and they have you do these exercises. I don't like being in the hospital. I don't like being in gyms. I'm not a gym guy. I don't like being hooked up to all kinds of machines and cords. And I'm stressed. And because I'm stressed, my blood pressure, my heart rate, which are the two things they're monitoring, are going up. You follow me? Yeah. And they're going, And I'm going, oh no. Now the people in charge of my life are going, So this isn't good. And in the midst of that, while I'm doing all this stuff, I'm in a hospital where I don't want to be, I'm in a gym that I don't want to be in, I'm hooked up to all kinds of wires that I don't want to be hooked up to, I'm having people monitor stuff that I don't want them looking at, and I don't want to be here. So I'm doing all that, and at some point, probably because I practiced this elsewhere, all of a sudden I thought, God's right here. In the wires, in the monitors, in the nursing staff, in the exercise equipment, in me. I'm as safe as I'm ever going to be right here. And that's always true. Doesn't matter where you are. That's always true. Does it mean your physical body's safe? Nope. Can you walk through life with no injuries, illness, or problems in your physical body? Anybody ever done that? Nope. Don't expect to. You can't. But the you that I'm talking about being safe is not your body. Yeah. Exactly. So all of these things that we're afraid of, if they come to pass, in the midst of those, there's an opportunity to wake up and go, God is right here. You know what else it says in the Bible? Jacob had a dream, and he woke up and said, God was in this place, and I never knew it. That's true of every moment you have ever experienced in your life, including this one, where you're listening to me thinking, do we get coffee yet? So we need to be able to bring this spirit that we talk about, that we believe in, that we do experience. We need to not shut down parts of our lives to that. Because what the parts of our lives we tend to shut down to it are the very parts that really need it, that we want it to be. And my dad used to do this thing when I was a kid. I was afraid of the dark. And I didn't have any brothers or sisters, so I was in a room by myself, and I was afraid of the dark. And my dad used to come in, and I would talk about what I was afraid of, the monsters in the closet or the monsters under the bed or whatever it was. And I was afraid of it. And he'd flip on the light. He'd say, show me where they are. Well, of course, there weren't any. And then we would sometimes open up the closet and look in it and look under the bed and check everywhere. I would make sure there were no monsters. And then he would turn out the light. And he said, nothing's different, except that now you're afraid. And then he'd flip back on the light. No monsters. And that worked till he walked out of the room. And I thought, well, of course the monsters aren't coming out when he's here. How stupid is that? So, what I didn't realize at the time is that was true. When our Father is with us, the monsters go away. So if your Father walks out of the room you're in, follow him. Walk out with him. go where God goes. And let God go where you go. So I'd like you to join me in a short meditation. And if you didn't close your eyes for a moment. This is a little bit different. Maybe you've thought this way, maybe you never have. But I'd like you to imagine for a moment. Imagine that I'm going to tell you something, and imagine that it's actually true. Even if you don't think it is or don't think it even could be. Just imagine, what if this were true? Here's the what if. What if tonight, at some point while you're home this evening, that which we call God, whatever term you use, the abiding spirit, God, the Lord, the Creator, whatever you call it. What if this were true? Tonight, in your home, at some point, God was going to directly reveal itself to you. Tonight. You were going to have a direct, face-to-face encounter with God, and it was going to reveal itself to you for who it was. And you knew that. You knew that was going to happen. You didn't know when, but you knew it was going to happen tonight in your home. It was really going to come present directly, and you were going to have a direct revelation from God tonight. How would you get ready for that? What would you do to prepare yourself to hear it, see it, feel it? How would you spend the rest of the time today between now and then? What would you do? So just for a moment, just sit with that just for a moment. If God were really, for sure, going to reveal itself to you very undeniably and directly tonight, how would your day be different, and what would you do to prepare? Because the truth is, that is going to happen. And it's going to happen not just in your home this evening. It's happening right now. Every breath you take is a revelation from God. Everything you think, everything you feel, everything you witness, every experience you encounter is God teaching you something about you, about itself, and about life. The revelation is unfolding moment by moment, breath by breath. All you need to do is calm yourself enough to pay attention. The spirit that you're looking for is right here. The love that you're looking for is already in your heart. The peace that you want is already present. And whatever answers you need are right now revealing themselves to you in your life. Stop looking for the answer you want and look for the answer that's being given. And then just for a moment, imagine that this abiding spirit is right here in this room, offering, revealing itself to anyone who wants to look. And so I'm going to ask you to look at two things. I'm going to ask you first to inwardly look at you and behold the radiance of God in you. And I promise you it's there because I can see it. And you. And the last thing I'm going to ask you to look at is whenever you're ready, open your physical eyes and look at the other people in this room. Behold, the Spirit of God is with you. It is within us, and it is among us. Right now. So I invite you again just to close your eyes briefly. And if anything has stirred in your spirit, take that in. It's real. And if a part of you is still so closed down that nothing moved, then pray that something deep in you be stirred into greater wakefulness. And watch what unfolds in your life. Thank you for all of you for listening to me. Thank you, and thank you for this abiding spirit that is revealing itself to and through each of us. God bless.
That was pretty cool looking around the room at everybody. I like that. Okay, thank you, Stephen. It's been said that there are two kinds of gratitude.